Today, we're going to get into the incredibly powerful story of Patty Murillo-Casa. She's a cervical cancer survivor, and by walking through her experience, we're going to uncover some really crucial lessons she learned, things she wishes she had known before her world was turned upside down. Just imagine hearing the words, "You have cancer." That's what Patty is describing here. That single moment when everything just stops. It's a feeling that's just impossible to prepare for. So, let me paint a picture of who Patty was at this moment. It's 2008, she's 48 years old, and she's just retired from the NYPD. She's got this whole new chapter of her life ready to go. But one doctor's visit, well, it changed everything. And see, this is why her story is so relatable. You look at her situation, fresh off a demanding 23-year career, in a stable, 10-year monogamous relationship, feeling great, you can see why she might have thought she wasn't at high risk. She'd actually skipped her annual GYN appointments for 3 years, probably thinking, I'm fine, what's the rush? And then bam, stage 2B cervical cancer. Suddenly, all those dreams of retirement and travel, they're gone, replaced by a fight for her life against a disease she barely even knew existed. In an instant, Patty was thrown into this whole new world, a scary world filled with medical jargon she didn't understand and terrifying choices she had to make. She calls it her crash course in oncology, and I mean a crash course. Her vocabulary was suddenly forced to include all these new, frightening words that would basically define the next year of her life. So first up was HPV. She had to learn that it's the most common STI out there, and yeah, it's what caused her cancer. But here's the thing that's so important to understand. Almost everyone who's sexually active gets HPV at some point. The vast majority of the time, your body just clears it on its own, no problem. But sometimes it doesn't, and that's when it can lead to cancer. And then she had to learn about the treatments themselves, things like brachytherapy. I mean, can you imagine? You're still reeling from the diagnosis, and now you have to learn about a procedure where a radiation source is placed inside your body? It's just completely overwhelming. Her tumor was too big for surgery, so her doctors came up with this intense 3-part plan of attack. It was a long, hard road that involved external radiation, chemotherapy, and that internal radiation we just talked about. If you want to get a sense of just how intense this journey was, just look at this number, 35. That's the number of external radiation treatments she went through. It's just staggering. It really gives you a glimpse of the sheer physical and emotional toll this battle took. But Patty is a fighter, and in 2009 she got the news. Her scans showed no evidence of disease. But you know what? Her story doesn't end there. In a lot of ways, this is where the most important part begins, sharing the lessons she learned so the rest of us don't have to learn them the hard way. This really is the heart of it all. What knowledge could have changed her path? And more importantly, what can we all take away from her experience? Let's get into it. The number one thing? She wishes she knew that your risks doesn't just vanish with age or because you're in a monogamous relationship. In fact, cervical cancer happens most often to people over 30. Patty was 48. The hard lesson was that those annual exams are absolutely critical, no matter what stage of life you're in. And let's talk about the virus itself, because this is huge. Is getting HPV common? Yes, incredibly common. But does it usually lead to cancer? No, not at all. Most infections just go away. However, and this is the really critical part, when cervical cancer does happen, HPV is almost always the reason why. And because of that, Patty's message here is so important. There should be zero stigma or shame about this, none. When a virus is this common, getting an HPV-related cancer isn't a moral failing, it's just biology. It's bad luck, period. Okay, so this brings us to the really practical part of Patty's message. Knowing all this is one thing, but what can you actually do? Well, when you go for that pelvic exam, there are 2 main screening tests, and it's helpful to think of it like this. The Pap test is looking for the effect. It's checking for any changes in your cells. The HPV test, on the other hand, is looking for the cause, the high-risk virus itself. Both are incredibly powerful tools for prevention. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? This is the core of her message, her warning to all of us. Those 3 appointments she skipped, she says if she had truly known the risks were still there for her, she never, ever would have missed them. And finally, Patty's story has this other vital lesson. It's not just about the medicine or the screenings. It's about the human part of the journey. It's about finding your people. Even with a loving husband and family right by her side, Patty felt so incredibly isolated. Why? Because she didn't know a single other person who had been through this. It was only after her treatment that she found support groups full of other survivors. And finding that community, it totally transformed her recovery and gave her a new mission in life, sharing her story so that other women would never have to feel as alone as she did. So we'll leave you with the very question Patty's story begs us all to ask ourselves. It's a simple question, but it's one that could literally change a life. When was your last screening?